Okay, so let's talk just real quick about foreclosure trends, because I think this is really what's impacting the market.
We have a slide?
You don't have one.
Oh. You're going to give us one though, right?
I can give you the link to this website where you can also touch all of this data yourself.
Cool.
Foreclosure filings in Snohomish County. January of 2010, there were 467. Looks like we peaked in June of 2010 with 755. Last month in January, so this is not as up to date as our other stats, 486. Still very consistent amount of foreclosure filings happening there. This next slide right here is foreclosure outcomes. The gray is cancellations. So these are basically ones that were set for auction, but for one reason or another, loan mod, short sale, or the bank just plain did not want to foreclose, they canceled the foreclosure auction. Okay? What's very interesting is the cancellations are up when you compare it versus the prior year by 8.5%. In other words, they're canceling more often in 2011 than they were in 2010. Why? Go ahead.
No, I mean, this is your...
If I had to guess, it's pressure from investors, the federal government and stuff like that to work out alternatives to foreclosure. And then the second thing is what I believe is they get a higher return on investment when they do a short sale versus a bank-owned property / REO. So they're trying to make more money by canceling these things. The second thing is, a lot of people talk about shadow inventory. They don't want more on their books, so they're probably canceling more in order to get some of the inventory off of their books before more comes on. The second they foreclose on a property, they then have to change their mark-to-market accounting and they have to increase their capital reserves. If it's a small bank, maybe they didn't have the capital reserves at that point, or they didn't want to increase their contributions. There's so many reasons that go into this. This is the most convoluted thing I've ever seen. Okay, here's what is absolutely astonishing and quite scary. This is the number of properties right here that have reverted to the lien holder. They are now a bank-owned property, aka an REO. This is probably one of the things that you're seeing. Look at that. When you compare January of 2011 to December 2010, REO bank-owned inventory is up 60.38% in Snohomish County. And over the prior year, we're up 77.08%. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, bank-owned inventory is up 77% versus the same time last year. Who is more motivated, you or the bank? And the answer in almost all situations is the bank is more motivated because they don't have one mortgage, they have 30,000.
So, Anton?
Yes, sir.
Those percentages are up, but how many, are those on the market REO properties?
Not necessarily.
Or are those held?
These are ones that have reverted to the bank after they have been foreclosed on after an unsuccessful foreclosure auction. That does not mean they hit the market.
Okay.
However, based on the stats that we look at, where we look at what reverted to the lien holder and then what hit the market, I would say 65 to 70% of this inventory is guaranteed to hit the market.
So there's 420, is that correct? Am I reading that correct? 420 properties that went back to the bank in January.
420 cancellations.
Oh, that's the cancel line. Okay, so the red line, 340 properties that went back to the bank in Snohomish County in January alone.
Yes. That's absolutely correct.
Is anybody tracking the cumulative number of REO properties or bank-owned properties held versus what's currently on the market?
LPS Analytics, CoreLogic, Barclays Capital. And they call them their shadow inventory reports. CoreLogic released one last week that they said there's an estimated 7 million properties that are sitting in shadow inventory.
Can we, without subscription or membership to those, can we get Snohomish County broken out or down?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. I'm thinking that there's a title company out there somewhere that probably has this information, but that's a guess.
I don't know. I'm gonna move on to, because this one kind of,
Answers that question a little bit.
sort of. This one basically talks about foreclosure inventories. So,
Thanks for the info, I gotta take a place.
hey, thank you, Marcus. Okay, so basically we have scheduled for sale. Look at, you're still seeing a ramp up. So this is foreclosure inventory scheduled for sale, AKA pre-foreclosure. You can see that there is a 37.9% increase in the pre-foreclosures, with January 2011 having 2,392 scheduled. Okay? And then they also compare that versus the REO inventory. So you can see that both pre-foreclosures and now bank-owned properties are both trending in an upward direction.
Yeah. Well, this is the answer. So you've got 2,300 properties currently on the market, or currently owned inside Snohomish County. So all you have to do is figure out how many of those were on the market January 11th.
Yes.
Which you can't go backwards to do, but you could guess.
Do you guys want me to break it down into any of these cities? Like, do you want to look at Everett or Marysville specifically?
Is Arlington on the list? 98223?
Arlington is on the list. Let's look at that one.
Because that's one of the sellers I'm most concerned about.
Okay. Foreclosure filings in, oh, hold on. We didn't, that's still, go to the next page. There we go, Arlington. Okay, foreclosure filings in Arlington, we're up 6.9%. REO inventory in Arlington specifically, we're talking the 98223 here, is up 71.43%. Cancellations are actually lower in Arlington relative to the overall market. They like to foreclose in Arlington more than the rest of Snohomish County.
If you can't get a buyer, you usually won't put the auction off.
That's a very good point. You can't get a buyer. Loan mod didn't work, so they're not going to put the auction off. And it's because, statistically speaking, there's just plain less sales in Arlington than the other cities.
Less demand.
Less demand. Beautiful. Foreclosure inventories? Looking about the same.
So 137.
Okay, I'm also going to talk about Everett and Marysville, just because those are very big foreclosure cities.
Definitely.
Okay, let's look at Everett real quick. Also, you can break this down by the zip codes. Interesting, in Everett, our notice of trustee sale, we're down 15.6% versus the prior year. Is it possible that the total number of foreclosures may have already peaked in Everett and that we will continue in a downward trend? Don't know. Just a good question.
So they're 15% lower than they were last year.
15% lower than they were last year.
Of those foreclosures.
Of those foreclosures. Well, maybe not, because REO inventory in the city of Everett is up 137%.
So wait a second, if it's up 137%, it's down 15%, how does that number work?
What that means is their foreclosures that are coming is decreased by 15%, but these are foreclosures that have happened.
Got it.
Just sitting here prowling around while you're talking,
Yes, sir.
just to give you an example, Arlington, the one we just did, 137 REO properties in January, assuming that that number is the same in February, which is most likely true, the REO count that's actually on market is 85. So that means there's almost 2/3 again, and what is that, 60-some, 50-some properties that are not on market that the bank is sitting on to avoid crashing the market, or because they're not ready yet, or whatever the issue might be that
Shadow
has them off.
inventory.
Right.
It could be owner or tenant occupied, in which
Right.
case it's gonna take them anywhere from 30 days to, 60, 90 to get them out.
Well, depending on what the lease says. Yeah?
We actually just sold a bank-owned property owner occupied. It's the first one I've ever done. The person stayed, they
Yeah.
agreed to show the house the whole time, they were a phenomenal tenant.
Roof agreement, essentially, was that what they did ahead of, did they set a?
No, there was a valid lease in place when it was foreclosed on, the bank honored the
Oh, you
lease.
said owner occupied,
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant tenant.
okay.
And the owner, the bank honored the lease, and the tenant taking great care of the property, still paying all the bills. It's the first time it's ever happened where it's worked phenomenal.
Have you seen it where an owner has been allowed to stay after foreclosure under a roof
No.
agreement?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, let's also go look at that wonderful city of Marysville. Okay, Marysville, foreclosure filings, notice trustee sales were up 32.5% versus the same time last year. Our inventory is up about 44%. Isn't this really interesting? And we all see these things happen very regularly. You see spikes in activity in REO and foreclosure volumes. I have no idea why. The only thing I could speculate in relation to this is they did not want to foreclose on people right around the holidays, because you see that drop in that November, December.
Isn't there, I mean, when just reading Hotwire, or not Hotwire, Housing Wire, there seems to be a lot of different bank servicers that will put a moratorium where they won't foreclose, or at least they won't evict during that time period around the holidays.
I agree. And then HSBC just launched a nationwide foreclosure moratorium for them to take time to figure out how their foreclosure process is going.
They just didn't know, huh?
I think they're having problems with their foreclosure process, so they just halted all of them in order to go and investigate and prove blah, blah, blah. Okay, any other city you want to look at? Let's look at Linwood, just because that was a good conversation piece earlier.
And Bothell too.
Okay, Linwood, foreclosure filings were up by 39.5% versus the prior year. The bank-owned properties is up, there you go, look at that, 178.5%. That is definitely a contributing factor to affordability in the city of Linwood. Cancellations are up by down by 17.39%. And here, this bottom one right here, sold to a third party. What that means is that's a successful auction sale, so someone bought it actually at the foreclosure auction. And it's very interesting to see a little spike. So you were seeing 3, 2, 4, 4, 3, 3, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, and then nobody bought anything. 1, 1, 1, and then January somebody bought 6. Or some investors bought 6 of them. Anything else we should talk about in relation to foreclosures? Otherwise, let's try and talk about any listings you guys want to talk about.
Let's talk about Bothell real quick.
Oh, Bothell, yes sir.
What's the zip code there for your listing?
205, I think.
Bothell is not specifically on this list.
205 is Everett, part of Lake Stevens.
Oh, never mind.
I think it's either 12, 11, 98012 or 11, or maybe it's 21.
98012, I think you're right, 98012.
98012?
Correct.
We have 98012. Okay, foreclosure filings in the 98012 zip code. We're up 15.38%. Cancellations are down by 6.7%. And bank-owned inventory is up by 26.67%. Relative to other places in the county though, I mean, if you look at these overall numbers, it's not as high. In the 98012, I mean, for REOs, starting in October, that's only 18, 10, 17, 19. And what you would base that on is that zip code has a higher overall median price. You're closer to the east side, which has a lot more jobs, a lot more desirable. You're also a quick commute to Seattle. Anything else?